Hi there, this is Jen and thanks for joining me. Today I am creating 3 cards using an adorable CC Designs stamp set called Abominable. One of those, I think it's Abominables, like Abominable's Yeti? I don't know. Anyhow, it's a super cute stamp set. I did purchase this from Jamie's shop, the Not Too Shabby shop. So if you are interested in this or any of the other products, please check out the links below. I decided to go ahead and try something different and do 3 cards using different styles or skill levels, I guess. I'm doing it clean and simple, a basic and advanced, and the first one I'm going to do, which I've already started apparently, is the clean and simple. If you watch my videos, I don't think I do a lot of clean and simple cards. I love the way they look though, so I thought I'd try it out for this first card. I'm just taking some Catherine Pooler ink in Garden Party and blending that onto a piece of, this is actually a paper called Hammer Mill, which is a new paper for me, but I really like it. And then I did the shadow line kind of to give more definition to that line with the Twilight Catherine Pooler ink. And here I am. This is my swatch for my alcohol inks. I have the Spectrum Noir and the Winsor Newton. So I'm going to use the Winsor Newton, and I was just trying to pick out my color. I was just kind of trying to show a little bit about how I go about creating a card. And so I was just comparing the ink color on my blend for the Garden Party ink from Catherine Pooler with the colors that I wanted to choose for the cute little Yeti. So I chose a few of blues and browns, and I'm just going to go ahead and color the Yeti. I don't leave a lot of the coloring in this video, and the coloring that I do leave is sped up a whole lot. So basically all I did was I picked 2 colors, a lighter blue and a darker blue, and went ahead and outlined the outline areas and kind of the areas where they have lines with that darker color, and then went back. And I'm actually using a new paper, and it's called Hammer Mill. It is very cost effective, and I really like it. I've ink blended on it, I've used alcohol markers on it, and to my inexperienced alcohol marker coloring knowledge, it works well for me. So I think I'm going to continue to use it. And I've gone ahead and cut out the Yeti with the coordinating die, and took this little piece of white paper and used this MFT basic stitches for each side of that little tab that I'm going to place on the card. And then I just used a die in my stash and colored that heart up with some alcohol markers. And I'm just going to put the Yeti flat on the card, so I'm just using my tape runner, and I'll go ahead and place it on the card. And when I removed the tape when I was doing the blending lines, it tore up a little bit of the paper, and so that's why I'm placing him where I'm placing him, so it will cover that. And then I'm just taking my fancy scissors and cutting, or decorative scissors, whatever they're called, and cutting the bottom of that tab. And then I've I've taken some foam strips, and I'll go ahead and adhere that to the top of my card. And then I will take the little heart and adhere that on top of the tab. And then I don't show that in this portion of the video, but in the still shots, you will see that I have used a glaze on it. So I used the Nouveau Crystal Glaze, which is just a clear, and it makes I think it makes things really pop. I went ahead and stamped up the sentiment in VersaFine Black and added a few sequins. And that will complete my clean and simple card. The next card I'm going to do is, I'm calling it a basic card, so I won't be using any dies or anything that a beginning card maker might not have. And so that was kind of my thought behind doing a basic card, is something for somebody that's just starting out. So I'm just using pattern paper and the stamps. Nothing, like I said, nothing fancy, no dies, no advanced techniques or anything like that. I'm basically just taking the paper from this cute paper pack And I'm taking the little Yeti with the finger in his mouth. And what's cool about the stamp set that I didn't notice until I was kind of playing around with it a little bit is that each sentiment kind of matches up to each Yeti. I don't know if that's an intentional thing or it just happens to be, but I thought that was pretty cool. It was very easy to match up the sentiment with the little character. So I'm going to ink this up with my VersaFine Black because I will be doing some watercoloring. And I am just using my close to my heart markers, which are very old. I got them secondhand, but the ink is still nice and juicy and awesome. But you can use whatever water-based markers you have, whether those are brush markers, Crayola markers, which is what I was going to use, but I couldn't find them. So there's a lot of water-based markers out there, even like from the dollar store or just Crayola markers that will work great. So all I'm doing is placing the color onto my image and then spreading that with my watercolor brush. And since I'm doing this as a basic card, I didn't want to use a die, so I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut the image out. And so fussy cutting is basically just cutting the image yourself without the use of a die. And the best way to do it is to move the paper instead of the scissors, and just to take your time and go slowly. I can't cut straight to save my life, so I don't always fussy cut that great, but I think it's well enough to get me by. And here I've already gone ahead and attached several pieces of the pattern paper to my card base. And there's this cute piece of pattern paper in the stack with all these little envelopes with hearts on them, and they're so cute. And so I thought I'd go ahead and cut a few of those out to use on the card. Okay, I guess I did not attach everything to the card yet. That's what I get for paying attention. So here I'm going to attach the striped piece of paper just using my double-sided adhesive. And then I'll go ahead and pop up this next piece with 4 pieces of foam tape on the back. And then I'll take my cute little Yeti and use my double-sided tape again, or tape runner. And I don't know if you can tell in the close-ups of this, but I thought his tooth was his tongue, and so I colored it pink. So it looks like he has a gray tooth and a red tooth, but I actually thought it was his tongue, and I think it's his tooth. So, and then these little envelopes that I cut out from the pattern paper, I'm just going to pop, I popped 3 of them up with small pieces of foam, and then 2 of them are just adhered directly flat. And then I went ahead and stamped up the sentiment with my VersaFine black ink on a piece of white cardstock. And I'm taking my glitter glue and using that on the back of the sentiment just to make sure that I get that straight. So I'll go ahead and adhere that. And then the heart paper, the hearts and the circles, I cut one of the circles out and added that by the sentiment. And that will complete the second card. This was the basic card. And I don't know why my video looked really blurry on that card for some reason. It might have been at night. I didn't have the light shining on it like I should have. So this next card is what I'm calling an advanced card, and that just means that I'm using techniques that are more advanced, or I'm going to use products that maybe a beginner doesn't have. I don't consider myself an advanced card maker, so I hate to use that word, but it's just I just wanted to differentiate between like somebody just starting out and maybe somebody that's been card making for a little bit. And so I'm going to go ahead and do some edge die cutting and also some mirror stamping. So I'm using this little Yeti that is blowing hearts. And so the first thing I'm going to do is put my pencil line on both sides of the paper. Because I am doing a mirror image, I have to put the die cut on the front and then flip the paper over and put the die cut on the opposite side so that I can stamp up my mirror image on the die cut. And so this is like partial die cutting, I guess, die cutting on the edge. I've used a piece of purple tape to adhere my die cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and just place my plates right where I want the cutting to end. So I want the whole image cut out, but not the bottom portion. So I'm going to leave the bottom portion hanging on the outside of the plates so that it does not cut. And I did not get this the first time. This image is a little higher up from the line, and then when I go ahead and cut the other image, it's perfect. And so I did have to run the first image back through to get it closer to the line so it's a little more even. It's a lot easier when you have the die cuts lined up and you can kind of line them up and tape them together. But since I have to flip the card over to die cut that mirror image portion out, I kind of had to hope for the best. I'm horrible at measurements anyhow. I hate measuring stuff, and so a lot of times I'm winging it or eyeballing it, and so a lot of times it is just me hoping that it turns out how it should. So so I'm going to go ahead and I've flipped the paper over, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to leave the feet area of the die hanging off of the edge of my plate, and then I will run it through my die cut machine. And I always just like to hold on to it until it gets through, so to make sure that nothing is moving around. I guess if you had a magnetic plate, or if you wanted to tape your paper to your die cutting plates, you can do that as well. But as you can see, that die cut is almost perfectly on that line, and the other one is not. And so I was more comfortable using my I don't know what this is We Are Memory Keepers, kind of like an X-Acto knife. I did not get this even though. You can probably tell in the shots. I did not get it even, but I have a hard time seeing with my manual paper trimmer where I was cutting, so I didn't want to mess it up. And so I went ahead and used just a ruler and a knife. And here I'm using my stamping platform, and I'm not going to say the name, you can probably see it, but because it is discontinued and no longer available. But I really didn't realize how much I missed this, having that corner to put the paper in and keep things even, because I use the We Are Memory Keeper stamping platform a lot, which doesn't have that feature. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp up my first image, which is the easy one because it is in the correct direction. And I'm using my VersaFine black ink, and I've already lined that up with my die cut. And so I'll just go ahead and stamp that. And it lines up fairly well. Not too bad. And then for the next image, I am going to have to do a mirror, I think it's called mirror stamping or something like that. I would have much preferred to use my stamping platform and a clear stamp, but I didn't have a solid one that would give me a image that was crisp enough, and I tried. And so I just decided to go ahead and use my silicone sheet, and I've stamped up the image in my VersaFine, and I'm just going to take that image and stamp it onto my silicone sheet. And you kind of have to be fast when doing this on a sheet, or if you have one of those name brand craft mats, because the ink tends to bead up a little bit and it will fade the ink, almost like it starts to fade. And so, and also you have to go down and not move it around at all because it is kind of a plastic and it will smudge. And so I've stamped that, and I'm just turning my paper over and pressing down with my finger and hoping for the best. And it is not as crisp as it would be if I were able to do it in my stamping platform. But I do, at the end, I'll show you what I do to kind of make it look a little bit better. So here I'm just using my Tombow brush markers to color both of the images. I don't, again, leave a lot of the coloring in. I color one of them a yellow with some green horns, and the other one in some shades of like pinks and darker pinks. And again, for this image, just like when I did the alcohol marker coloring, I am only using 2 colors for most of it. And so after I complete the coloring, I'm taking my fine liner, and I chose the smallest one that I have, which is a 01 size. And I'm just very lightly putting my pen over the images, going slowly to make sure that I don't mess it up. So I think it looks a great deal better once I went ahead and outlined it. And so once I've had my panel completed, I'm taking a piece of a pink cardstock for my base. This is a 110-pound Michael's Recollections cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and leave a little sliver of paper showing on the top and the bottom, but I'm going to take my paper trimmer and cut out that first, half of the card. And so I'm just going to go and put this through my paper trimmer and cut from the pencil line that I marked to the spine of the card. And then I will cut along the spine of the card with my scissors to completely remove that piece. And then I will adhere this piece, but I wasn't really sure what to do with the bottom of it. And so I was going through my dies, and I found these border dies in my stash. That's a border of hearts. So I went ahead and used that, and it cuts out a bunch of tiny little hearts. And then I'm taking the sentiment. I think it says Big Monster Kisses. I'm using my VersaFine Black. I'll go ahead and ink that stamp up and stamp my panel. And it does say Big Monster Kisses. And then I will take my glitter glue and glue up the panel portion and adhere that to my card base. And then all these tiny little hearts that came out of that border piece, I do use a few of them. So I take 2 of my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers and color up a lighter pink over the whole heart, and then I take a darker pink and just color kind of like the shadow portion over on the left side of the heart. And I think this is the same color combination I used for that heart that I did on the other card. It's just really pretty shades of pinks. And then some of the little hearts I insert into the negative space of the border die cut. And I place 2 of them on around the sentiment. And I don't know about you, but I have this sheet of paper. Every time I use glue, I have to squirt it on there first just to make sure it doesn't like explode, I guess. And so what I'm doing is just taking a little bit of that glue and a fine liner top and placing that glue. I found that this works really well for me when doing sequins and smaller items. It's just to take the top and dip it in glue and then place it instead of having the top on a glue bottle and squirting it out. I don't know. For me, it seems to work better because then I can control really how much glue I'm putting. And I apologize for the sound. I don't know if I am just mumbling today or what. The audio sounds not as good as it usually does, so I'm not sure what's up with that. I'll have to look into it. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. I was trying to make sure to include more of people that are just starting out in card making that don't have all the dies and supplies, so I hope I accomplished that. If you liked this video or found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Thank you as always for watching. Leave a comment below, and I'll catch you next time.